Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, celebrity interviews, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Now celebrating 17 years of broadcasting success, here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
And welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again, both for our radio audience and those tuning in online. We're glad you all could join us as well. Storytellers are everywhere, whether they're writing books, being able to bring stories to life on film, but also those who are just everyday walking around us. All of us have a story to tell, and our next guest definitely knows this worldwide. We're excited to welcome acclaimed Director Hezeus R to our program to talk to him not only about his own love of storytelling through film, but what it's been like for him to have his work recognized and his brand new project that definitely is something all of us can relate to when it comes to mental health. Hezeus, thank you so much for the time today, man. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Cyrus, for having me. Oh, it's a pleasure to be on your platform.
Well, look, the pleasure's definitely all mine. I want to start off with something I know you don't like to do, and that is to talk a little bit about yourself and your success, Hezeus, because I think when I was prepping for this segment, the thing that comes to mind is, the people who talk about the opportunities you've made, the subjects you've been able to tackle. What has that been like for you to know that not only have you been able to do work that you love, Hezeus, but also have people really appreciate that work?
It means everything. As an artist, it means everything for me because a lot of my work is focused on social impact, right? So when you're creating something with a message that you hope helps humanity, when that messaging is validated by its influence over bettering people's lives, there's nothing more rewarding than that.
Wow.
And throughout my career, whether it was content through a music video or a film or campaign or through one of the many charity organizations that I founded, seeing the transformational effect that people are taking by the influence, either to be inspired or to directly connect to resources in their community. For me, there's nothing more rewarding than being able to help others.
Right. Have you always known, though, Hezeus, that the platform available to you, in this conversation we're talking visually, that was kind of going to be the vehicle for you? Because we as human beings, of course, are very visual and animals. Have you always known that platform is going to be the best for you to be able to make a difference?
I didn't. It was definitely a journey of discovery through my own change, and I think a lot of the reason why I'm so passionate about helping others is because I had a very rough, upbringing in terms of the adversities of things that I faced, multiple near-death experiences, and through that I've developed a compassion. I started to raise, questions in my mind if we're not going to, if nobody else cares about what we're doing to ourselves, and we're not focused on making any change, then nothing will change. So it just became this ownness that I felt like I had to make a difference and I had to influence my peers. Fortunately, one of the first ideas I had was through a television program. And when that production became successful, as I was in the process of teaching myself production, I started out on a public access show. I'd seen how much it impacted and really influenced people. And
right.
I gravitated towards that, and then I got into advertising, and I found that not only was it something that could communicate a message well, but it was something that I was very, very good at. I had a meteoric rise in entertainment with no education, connections, resources. Everything about the entertainment industry is about access. So it's
right.
not just who you know, but how you know them. But without knowing anybody, I was able to kind of rise up very fast because I had such a great talent, that I've been blessed to have a talent that I would have been completely unaware of. So I discovered something, inadvertently through the process of trying to do good for others, and realized that I had a real talent for filmmaking.
Right. And I think, too, Jesus, we have to throw this in there, the fact that you're not afraid of the work. I think so many times people want the reward. As you know, they want to be able to be on the red carpets like you. They want to be able to have the accolades. They want to be able to have that, support system. But the work is definitely something that's important. What has that been like for you to see the challenges and the struggles paying off? Because every day is not going to be easy. But what is it like for you to see that by your being so consistent and so passionate, how that has paid off in your career?
Well, first of all, Cyrus, you got a great round of questions, man. I really appreciate the questions you're asking because a lot of people, they go for the fluff and they don't dig into the dirt. And for me, I think I'm not afraid of the work because I think everything starts there, right? You can, like, when I go to speak in schools, young kids, they'll raise their hand, or what do you want to be? I want to be a CEO. CEO of what? They see things on TV and they know they want to be an entrepreneur or have a business, and that's great. The mentality's starting to go there, but I think it definitely has to come down to a specific plan and you doing something that you love. And for me with film, it's just something that came so natural and something that I'm passionate about. So it's never like work. And then in not worrying about the accolades, I'm always serving the brand, right? And advertising. Yeah. So for me, it's not about the politics or the status climbing or the perception of the success. It's about serving the brand. I take myself out the equation and figure out how I can elevate this brand or message. And then if that's successful and you do enough of them, even if you're behind the scenes, it starts to add up and you'll get the recognition. So you never have to, force yourself into that position to brand yourself ahead of the content that's in front of you.
So true. And I think that's a great reminder for our audience out there to really, it goes back to the old adage, Jesus, letting the work speak for itself, and that's what you've been able to do. I want to say for those who are just tuning in, he's on the radio side or online, you're listening to Conversations Live. Hezues R is on our program today. We're talking to him not only about his journey as a filmmaker, but also what it's been like for him to have his work recognized. He's gearing up for a brand new project called Suicide Saint that's going to be making a premiere on World Mental Health Day in October. We're going to talk to him about that. So I want to talk about the issue of mental health because I think, it's so much bigger than when people say mental illness, Jesus, because mental health is something all of us have to protect, right? So why was this a topic that you wanted to be able to tackle, especially considering everything that's going on in the world right now?
Well, thank you for making that distinction because I feel like, as part of that stigma, when people hear mental health, they only think illness and they don't realize that we're all susceptible to illness.
Right.
Half of the population in the U.S., 46% of Americans deal with mental illness at some point in their lifetime. And Hollywood has been very irresponsible in how they add to the messaging around it in terms of identifying people with mental health, demeaning them, criminalizing them, making them villains, and then this creates a stigma and stereotype. People with severe mental illness are actually 10 times more likely to be victims, and they only attribute to 3% of violent crimes. So the numbers are much different from the perception. And then we also just have this vulnerability because we have, we glorify our vanity so much through social media and trying to, put on the perception of living the best life when we're all having our respective struggles. I think if we were more transparent about that, what we're going through, and be honest, we wouldn't, compare ourselves to other people who things aren't that much better than what you have, right? Everybody's always willing to. If we all threw our problems in a pile, when you realize what everybody else has, you quickly grab yours back. Like it's not as what you think. But yeah, so the difference between the mental illness and mental health, and why I want to make a film about this is for the last 2 decades. I've done a lot in addressing different issues, from doing a charity called Guns for Cameras in 2005 to help reduce gun violence and empower young kids to have a voice, to last year doing a program. We launched a film school called the SICK Film School, SIC, standing for Social Impact Content. But every issue that I've ever tackled, being honored by 2 presidents of the United States for my philanthropic efforts, once by Barack Obama as a champion of change, everything I've ever done, I realized that all these issues are derived from mental health. If it's domestic violence, if it's racism, all these different things evolve from our mental state, right? What we're taught, what we learn, how we regulate our moods, our emotions. These are things that we're not educated on in school. We in middle school, high school, we learn math, science, history, or in college, you're prepared for a career to make money. But there isn't enough education on us just being better people in terms of being able to de-escalate and interact with and have better social skills, right? There's some organizations that are starting to introduce that. There's a school in Harlem, Capital Prep, that we actually are aligning with now for the film. It was co-founded by Sean Combs, and we're doing a venture with them to provide access for the students to be on set of the film later this year. And then there's an organization. Earlier this morning, I was on a call with Director X, who runs a program out of Toronto, Canada, called Operation Prefrontal Cortex, which implements meditation in schools and they promote it to police forces, because a lot of these decision-making processes happen from stress and trauma and other things that, subconsciously become a part of our thought process that we might not necessarily be aware of. So it's so many different things, and there's layers to it that, we're going to peel back in the film in a very subtle way between the two main characters, Thomas Meadow and Vincent Cross, who are respectively dealing with, Cross deals with hypervigilance and schizophrenia, and Meadow deals with a self-identity crisis and PTSD.
Mm. I'm glad you mentioned the PTSD element, Hezues, because I think, there's so much trauma right now, and, not to make light of it at all, but I think for 2020, this has been a very traumatic year for a lot of people, not only in dealing with a worldwide pandemic, but also, of course, the escalation, of course, with police violence, the conversations that's been happening with of course, about race and racism and how we all are kind of impacted by that. Do you hope that a project like Suicide Saint reminds us all how we are kind of interconnected in this and how these things can cause trauma and the importance of recognizing that trauma and addressing it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything that we learn in society culturally comes through media and entertainment. How we see ourselves, how we see each other. I have a 3-year-old daughter. As much as we instill and teach things to her as a parent, a lot of her behavior or things that are indicators of what she's learning or how she's interacting in the world is stuff that she learns from cartoons. So, we have to be very careful of what cartoons and things she's watching on even at that age.
Right.
But up until, adults, like people are still influenced on a daily basis, teenagers, millennials, by the music they listen to, the films they watch. This all helps to inform how we see ourselves and, culturally how the rest of the world sees America historically has been their perception of what they see in film. So you can't underestimate the power of that influence. And one of the other, things that I'm pushing in conjunction with this film and the whole process of me making the film outside of the studio system is this idea that art over algorithms is important. And the reason that's important, because now when people make a project and you go to any studio, distributor, whatever, the first thing is, okay, what actor you have attached? And they're trying to mitigate their risk and figure out what the profit margins are going to be. And everything is calculated and based or greenlit on the profitability of a film, which I think does us a disservice as a society, because when you go back to, the Renaissance period, artwork was being commissioned. It wasn't for profit. It was for just the natural beauty and inspiration for society, right? To see something and appreciate it. And there's not enough that's being created just, merely for social good. If we invested in the arts as a way of promoting social good, that would help heal a lot of the ills and help amplify the messages of a lot of these organizations that are getting drowned out by all the conversation on social media around news and propaganda and all these things that are being divisive to us, right? We're polarized in this country by different viewpoints on even something as simple as wearing a mask in public. People are very aggressive about their position on it. I think, everyone should wear a mask, and I think, people are extremely selfish or inconsiderate to think that they're sacrificing them being able to breathe over somebody else being able to pass a virus and potentially kill somebody. I've lost friends and family members to corona already, but we don't all see things the same way. And I think part of that is that because we have such immediate access to, and the way things spread, instantly online, we're saturated with misinformation. So we need to have stronger messaging and more inspiration in those bigger kind of commercial blockbuster projects, with the Hot 100 Billboard artists, films and theaters. Like it can't just all be about making money and just, exploiting the culture. We have to be more responsible and be more invested in doing stuff that's going to inspire humanity.
So true. And that's why it's so good that we have people like you, Hezues, there using their creativity, using their art, and using their influence to make sure that things like this are brought to the spotlight, as we're going to be seeing with Suicide Saint. Again, everyone, Director Hezeus R has been our guest. We've been talking with him not only about what it's been like for him to do the work that he loves and have that work recognized, but also, of course, to be an example for all of us through his work as to what's possible. The new project is called Suicide Saint. It's going to be making its appearance on a very big day, of course, for the world, as we're kind of looking at World Mental Health on World Mental Health Day on October the 10th. Hezues R is the best place for you guys to be able to find him, HezuesR.com. That's HezuesR.com. Again, that's HezuesR.com. For those who are joining us through our iHeartRadio audience, we will make sure that we put that link for you guys there in the notes of this podcast. Hezues, man, I really do appreciate this time. I appreciate the work that you're doing, and I hope you'll come back after the October 10th event and give us an update.
I absolutely will. Thank you, Cyrus. I really appreciate your time, and it was an absolute pleasure.
Look, I appreciate that, man. Definitely appreciate our good friends at Double Exposure Media Relations for setting up this chat with us for today, and thank all of you for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying, as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live. Let's make it a great one.